Hi guys, welcome back to the Adaptive Zone podcast. My name is Matthew Boyd. I'm a physiotherapist and running coach. If you enjoyed today's episode, don't forget to like and subscribe. And if you're so inclined, share with a friend. Today, we're going to be talking to me again. So again, it's New Year's Eve and I'm going to be recording my episode on Project 2024, which is something I did last year if you tuned in, and I did it live so that I had a little bit more courage to go ahead and share some of my goals that are a little more personal. And I got some really great feedback on that episode, and I had to listen to it, and it wasn't so bad. So I'm going to do it again this year. And what I hope that you're going to get out of this episode is a framework that you can use to set your running goals for 2024 in the context of your life on the whole. So bearing in mind the constraints that you are working within. So stay tuned till the end because I'll share how to get a blueprint that you can use to actually set up your Project 2024 using the same framework that I'm going to describe today. Now, the way I approach setting my goals for the year is to think about the whole year and the amount of energy I'm going to expend as a big barrel of water. And I have 4 buckets, and I want to put my water in the buckets in the distribution that I decide. And the 4 buckets are health, wealth, contribution, and connection. And what I want to avoid doing is spilling water or having someone else come along and steal my water. I want to decide where that energy goes, where that water goes, which bucket do I want to put it in. And I want to avoid as much as possible letting it fall out. And I would say that's things like social media, television, gaming, gossiping, whatever your vice is, that's essentially stealing your energy and taking your water and not putting it in one of the 4 buckets or where you actually want to put it. And if you did tune in last year, you'll notice that I've consolidated the buckets because I used to have 6. So I've taken the family and social buckets and put those in connection just to make it a little bit easier of a framework to work with. And I'm going to go through them in a specific order with my running goals and my health goals, the health bucket last. And I'm going to do that because you'll see as the episode unfolds, I want to make sure that my running goals, my health goals are set within the constraints of the rest of my life, and the other areas are going to dictate how much energy, how much water I have left to put into that health bucket. So the first bucket we're going to do is the contribution bucket. And I talked last year about how in the past for this contribute, because I've been doing this method for like 10 years or something now, ages. But in the past, what I would do for contribution was this is my way to give back. Essentially, I feel like I've had a lot of support, a lot of help, a lot of privilege, maybe one of a better word in my life. And I want to give back to the world to say, this is my contribution in reciprocation for the support and the assistance that I've received from, very close people, from my family and then my friends and also, strangers even. And in the episode last year, I talked about how I was trying to change my method of contribution to be a bit more leveraged. And that's because in the past, when I would do a little bit of volunteering or I would give money to charity, it was difficult to really contribute much in those ways because I don't have a lot of spare money because I'm not particularly well off. And in terms of donating my time in the form of charity, I didn't have any skills to offer. I couldn't leverage the difference I made, the contribution I made with any skills because I could just do basic things that anybody could do. And what I talked about last year was trying to use more of the skills I have, which is specifically in the area of physiotherapy, right? So I've been a physio for 20 years now. I'm now a running coach as well. And I can help injured runners get back to running. I have special skills in that area, which means that I can contribute more by doing that. And you may have noticed in the podcast recently, I've been sharing more interviews with clients and some success stories from working with our clients this year. And you may also know that I went full-time into the running coaching hybrid business that we set up just really in January this year. As I've been sharing those stories, it's really become quite clear that the biggest contribution I can make is to help injured runners get back to running. And I believe that this is the biggest contribution that I can make. The best way that I can give back is because those runners who are injured and can't run, if I can help them get back to running, we know, like you probably know, and I know for me, running is their linchpin. It's the linchpin for their physical and mental health. It is the small but vital part that allows them to stay physically and mentally healthy. And if you take it out, then the wheels fall off. Most runners, when they get injured or if they can't run for some other reason, don't do other things. So all of the benefits that they get in terms of physical and mental health all go away. And this year, working in our business, which doesn't have a proper name at the minute, because I had a name and then the sort of direction of the company changed as it emerged what we were good at and how I wanted to deliver it. And I'm looking at changing the name. And what I'm thinking is something like Get Back to Running, because I think that quite clearly articulates what we do. But that's under review right now. So stay tuned. I'll let you know when we've picked a formal name. Anyway, I've been through our stats for this year. And this year, we helped at least 50 runners, injured runners, get back to running. So my goal for 2024 is to double that. I want to help 100 injured runners get back to running. And we're not just going to stop there. I want to help 1,000 runners get 1,000 injured runners get back to running over the next 3 years. So that's the energy, the water that I'm going to put into the contribution bucket. That's my mission for this year. And that brings me nicely on to the next bucket, which is connection. Now, I talked last year about how in the connection bucket, you want to have family and then friends and then other social activities. And I talked about how I've always struggled with the social side of it. I never seem to pay attention to it. It's not something that I find comes naturally to me to be particularly social. And I always felt kind of guilty for that. I would give myself a hard time about it. And I've really decided that I'm just going to accept it this year. But that being said, in terms of connection, there is something that I want to do with our business, with the runners that we work with, that I think would be incredibly helpful. And at the minute, the way it works when we work with our clients, they interact with us. So me, Heidi, and Grace, the coaching team, we work with them to get them back to running and then to get them on to their next goal, whatever it is. However, currently they have no contact whatsoever with each other. And I think that's a real shame because most people who come to work with us are in a very similar situation. They are an injured runner who wants to get back to running. And I think having the connection between these people would allow them to support each other on that journey and sort of give each other encouragement when it's not going so well and help celebrate the wins when it is going well. But also we have a lot of clients still working with us more on the performance side who have got back to running after their injury. And now they're more working on their next race goal, whatever that might be. And I think being able to have contact with them so they can encourage those who are earlier in the process will be incredibly helpful. So then the runners are helping each other rather than just us as the coaching team helping the runner, not quite one-to-one, but similar. And setting up a community among these runners and fostering that so it's actually productive and helpful for them, I think would be incredibly valuable and helpful, but also is an actual social project that I would be interested in being involved in rather than just, trying to attend more running clubs and trying to go to social events when they're set up by people that I'm acquainted with and never going and feeling guilty about it, because it doesn't interest me that much. However, this idea I think is very exciting, as you can tell. So that's what I'm thinking on the connection side of things to fill that bucket. And then under connection, I'm also going to write the names of my close family, so my immediate family, and then I write down how I'm going to interact with them, how I'm going to stay connected with them this year, and maybe some things I want to do with them. We're having another baby. You guys might not know. I don't know if I've mentioned it yet, but he is going to be arriving in February. So just a couple of months. And some of the family goals that I'm putting under this connection are a lot to do with that. So getting the family over to meet him and that kind of stuff. And just generally trying to get through that first phase of the couple of months. Something I did put down was to just try and enjoy that, because I'm quite nervous about the first 2 months. The first 2 months with Lachlan, our first baby, was quite a shock for me. I wasn't prepared for just how hard it was going to be. And I'm quite nervous about doing that again. And I'm just going to try and enjoy it in spite of the fact that it is hard and you don't get much sleep. And we'll still have Lachlan, who's only 2 and far from independent yet. I think it's a good goal for me to just enjoy that period and don't try and force it too much. Don't try and just grin and bear it and get through it, but enjoy it in spite of the fact that it can be, stressful and tiring. So anyway, that's a little more personal, but you get the idea. In the connection bucket, we're going to place our energy, our water that we want in order to stay connected to those people who are most important to us. So you're going to put them down by name. And then for me as well, with our athletes, I'm going to put that project of creating the community down. Okay, the next bucket is wealth, right? And my strategy in the past has always been set aside some money, put it in index funds in the RSP or whatever it is, put aside some money for Lachlan for his tuition and invest that, and essentially try and let that grow passively so someday I can retire. But this year, I'm really thinking about this differently. So in the past, when I had a job, working as a physio in the clinic, as people are getting better, they typically stop coming back. So after a few sessions, that you just won't see them anymore. You don't really have an appointment where they come in and say, "Oh, it's all good now," so you know that they had a good outcome. And I would try and follow up with people, phone, email, and stuff, but it was really hard to do, and often you wouldn't hear back. So you didn't really know who was getting better and who wasn't. I always found that really difficult to live with, because you never really know how much you're helping people. And if you don't know how much you're helping people, then you don't know how much value you're providing, right? How are you actually making their life better? And in exchange for the wages that I was paid, am I actually contributing? Am I actually providing more value than am I extracting? And I never really knew. But now, as I talked about with the 50 runners from this year that we helped get back to running, I mean, that's just clearly valuable, right? If you are an injured runner, like you might be currently, and you can't run at all, just think of all of the knock-on effects of that, the biological, the psychological, the social, all of the effects that has on you being unable to run at the minute. And then if that goes on for a long time, just extrapolate those over a whole lifetime. And now if I had like a pill, an imaginary pill that I could give you that would get rid of the injury, and you could go back to running as much as you want, and think of all the ripple effects of that, all the positive effects, biological, psychological, and social, that come from that, and then extrapolate that over a lifetime. And so now I can see the value we provide, right? Taking runners from unable to run or not able to run as much as they want back to able to run as much as they want, and all of the positive effects that has. Clearly, that's a valuable thing. And I think the value of that is well in excess of the investment that our clients make in us. And so now, one thing I am proud of for my own personal finances is I was able to, I talked about in last year's episode that I just sort of quit my job and I was starting the business, full time. And I was really nervous about that. And I was able to generate enough income from clients by helping them in this way to recreate my old salary, essentially. So I was able to take home income the same as I did the year before when I worked for the clinic. The difference is now I know exactly how valuable that investment was to our clients. I know how much difference we're making in their lives, and I know that I totally earned it. I'm proud of that contribution, because I can see that the investment that was made, the return on it was just fantastic. So my new plan, rather than taking a section of my income and putting it in index funds, which is where if you don't know, it's where they take your money and they distribute it among some of the world's top companies, and they go and do their thing and they make more money, and then they increase in value, and then your index funds are worth more, and that's how you grow your investments. But then you're taking that money and investing it among hundreds of companies, and you have no idea what they do or why they do it, whether they're making the world a better place or a worse place or what. And now what I've decided to do instead of that, so rather than taking money out of the business and distributing it among companies that I'm not familiar with, I'm going to keep taking just a living wage for me and my family to live on. And then I'm going to keep the rest of the money in the business to grow the business. Because if I want to help 1,000 runners over the next 3 years get back to running, I'm going to need to grow the team. I'm going to need to invest in promotion. I'm going to need to invest in systems and processes and coaching and all sorts of things so that I know how to do that and how to do it well. So rather than distributing my investment among hundreds of companies that I'm not familiar with, I'll be investing in just one, my own company. And I plan to make it a success. So my plan on the wealth front is a little different than it used to be, but for the next couple of years at least, that's the plan. So that's the wealth bucket. And finally, we get to the health bucket, and I'm going to talk about running a little bit. So as I've mentioned, for me, as I expect it is for you, running is my linchpin. It is the linchpin that helps hold together my physical and mental health, and it's extremely important in that sense in my life. And registering for races helps me focus my training and helps me enjoy the running. So the races are a means to an end, but the running itself is a means to an end. It's all a process of trying to maintain and improve my physical and mental health. And because of what I've just described, my ambitions with the business this year to help more and more runners to grow the team, to make the experience and the results better and better, I've already distributed a lot of my water, right? The energy that I have to distribute among the 4 buckets, I can already see that a lot of time and energy is going to be going into those first 3 buckets. So to try and pick a really ambitious goal, like to do my first 100-mile race or to do my first Ironman, it doesn't make sense. And I talked about this last year. And then I set goals of trying to hit 2 marathons and then failed at those. And I had quite a bit of health challenges in the first part of the year where I gained a bunch of weight and then had to lose it again. I talked about that on the show. And then I got injured. I hurt my own IT band and had to rehab myself. And a lot of this was to do with the fact that I'd set goals that were really ambitious without realizing just how much water I'd poured into the other buckets. And that's because when we started the business, or when I started it, because it was just me initially in January, I had a sort of influx of clients who wanted help getting back to running. And while that was extremely gratifying and exciting and really motivating, and it was a privilege, it was also difficult because I didn't have systems, I didn't have a team, I didn't have a definitive process, and everything was very messy. And it took a lot of time and energy, and it was quite stressful. And because of that, I didn't eat very well, I didn't sleep very well, and I didn't train properly for the marathon in the spring, tried to increase my volume really late in the day and injured my IT band. So I don't want to make that mistake again, and really got myself into a fairly unhealthy place, temporarily at least. And I don't want to do that again this year. So my goal is just to get through this year in terms of health, as healthy at the end of the year as I am now and throughout the year, because I'm back to a healthy place, I would say. But in the meantime, I'm going to have to do all of this stuff with the business that I talked about. And we've got the baby coming, and I've still got my 2-year-old son. So a lot of my energy is already distributed. So my goals in that context are going to be more conservative. And I think all I'm going to go for is to get my 10K under 50 minutes and just work on that all year. So I'll probably do 3 or 4 10K races, and that'll be it on the running side of things. And then in terms of fitness and general health, one other thing I want to do is to continue the strength work that I've been doing really good at. So I've been hitting the gym 3 times a week and being very consistent with the strength side of things. So I'm going to try and I've been doing a workout every day for probably about 4 or 5 months now, and I want to continue that. So my goal would be to work out every day in 2024. However, that's not that realistic, I don't think, because I remember how difficult that first month is, especially with the new baby. So I think what I'm going to do is, well, I know what I'm going to do is set my goal on the health side of things to hit 365 workouts in 2024, even if they're not, 1 workout per day. I'm going to double up some days to make up for lost time if I have to miss a few around that time when they have the baby. And then finally, on the health front, I'm going to share a little bit something, again, more personal than I normally would, but I think it's important to do so. So last year, what I didn't talk about, which I did put in my Project 2023 goals, was to reduce alcohol consumption. So for me, for quite a long time, alcohol has been my way of relieving stress and anxiety. So when I feel stressed out, anxious, tired, overdone, then I'll have a glass of whiskey or a beer or something like that in the evening. And that becomes a very habitual thing. And before you know it, I'm having 1 or 2 drinks every night, and that can go on for months. And it's, something I don't enjoy sharing because it's not something I'm proud of at all. And it's not at all the kind of person I want to be. But for periods, it'll happen where I'll go months and I'll have, upwards of 14, 15 drinks a week. I will say, just for proper context, I'd never really have more than 2 in a night. It's more that they're very frequent rather than binge drinking. And this really became more of an issue in, when was it, 2020, when the pandemic first hit. So, nobody knew what was happening, how bad it was going to be. I was very worried about it. I got laid off. We did go back to work fairly quickly, but by that point, I'd already been quite stressed out and worried about my parents and just what it was going to mean for all of us. And I'd started this habit of having 1 or 2 drinks every day. And because I knew I was doing it, I started tracking it on an app. And since then, I've been tracking every drink I've had for like the last 3 years. And so last year, when I was setting up my goals for 2023, for Project 2023, I looked at the app and I took the amount of drinks I'd had across the year, averaged it, and then set myself a goal to reduce that. So that went okay. The goal was, that I didn't share in last year's episode, the goal was to average less than 10 units a week for the whole year of 2023. And I actually averaged, I think, 5, or I think it was 5.5 or something like that. However, I'm still not happy with my relationship with alcohol. It is still very much like a vice. It is a coping strategy. It's what I go to when I'm stressed out and anxious, and it feels like a burden that I would just rather be rid of. And not so much in the sense that I want to go teetotal and never drink again, more so in the sense that I want alcohol and drinks to be more like, cookies. Like, I don't care if there's cookies in the house. I don't have to stop myself eating cookies. But with alcohol, like I do, I'll set myself challenges. And like I did this year, I'd, go 6 weeks without drinking. And then I do it, but then I think about it all the time. Like, it has this unpleasant pull on me that I want to get rid of. And yeah, this is awkward to share in a public setting, right? I'm not feeling particularly comfortable talking about this, but I want to sort of publicly share it because I think often in my podcasts, in my social media, in my videos, in my, what do you call it, the emails, it comes across like I have everything figured out, and I hate that, right? I hate that kind of highlights reel nature of content. So as much as I don't want to like overshare all my personal problems, I don't want to paint a picture that I have it all figured out. And definitely one of my things that I don't like about myself is that when I get stressed, when I get anxious, when I get overworked, tired, whatever it is, I'll drink to make myself feel better. And I want to reevaluate that relationship. I want to improve that relationship with alcohol so it's not such an issue for me. So my goal for this year, if I track again, would be to get the average units across the whole year under 4. I think that's a reasonable goal, and would more so than that, though, it would be more of a difficult to measure goal would be to improve my relationship with it, where I didn't feel like this about it anymore. And so they're my buckets, they're my goals. So we've got, what was it? The first one, it was contribution, connection, wealth, and health. And I'm going to try and avoid letting too much water go in. YouTube is one for me that steals water. It steals more of my attention than I would like. And I'm sure for you guys, you can pretty easily name the thing that steals your energy, steals your attention. And it's a place you don't want to put it. So it might be gaming. It might be gossiping. It might be being on social media. It might be binge series on Netflix, whatever it is, just somewhere where you put a lot of time and energy that you'd rather not put it. And what I would suggest is if you use this system, you lay out the 4 buckets and then set goals within all of them. And then once you've done the first 3, you can set up your goals for your health and your running in that proper context, because now you've got your constraints, you know what you have time and energy for, and you can set up goals that are realistic and achievable based on the context of your whole life. And so for me, I'm going to get support. So last year, I worked with a group called the Honey Badger Project, which is a group of, it was started by physical therapists who help, physios and chiropractors and other health coaches and health professionals set up businesses like mine, where the goal is first and foremost to help people, but to do it in a way where you can kind of keep the lights on, essentially. And this year, I'm going to be looking for more sort of business coaching, business support in order to take it to the next level, to set up the processes, the systems, to train my team and make sure they're set up for success so that our clients can win and we can help more people. And then on the alcohol side of it, I've enrolled in this thing called the Naked Mind, which is kind of a challenge where you have a sober period, but you also do, you read material that helps you trying to re-examine your relationship with alcohol, which I think would be very helpful for me. So I'm going to get support on those 2 things. So if you'd like to follow this similar system in terms of setting up your goals for 2024, you could follow me on Instagram at Matthew Boyd Physio and just DM me the word Project 2024, and I'll send you a PDF that you can use to fill in with the various buckets in. And I would encourage you, whether you use this particular blueprint or some other, is to set up your running goals in the context of your whole life. And to do it deliberately, right? Because if you don't sit down and set out what you would like to do with this year, you will just do whatever comes to you. And in this day and age, with entertainment technology being the way it is, most of the time you're going to get pulled into, whether it's apps like social media or Netflix or gaming or whatever it is, the technology is going to pull you in and take all of your time and energy. And if that health bucket for you, which involves running, if you're a bit worried about it, if you're injured and you're not sure you're going to get through the year, or maybe you've had injury trouble in the past, or you just want to take your running to the next level, you can get support with that. So if you'd like us to be those people, we'd love to help you. We'd love you to be one of the 100 runners we get back to running this year in 2024. So just click the link in the description to book a call and we'll have a chat.